Hey everybody. All right, we are live. So if you can hear me, hopefully let me know you can hear me. Hopefully I think my mic's working. I checked it. And also what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going over something I just released as a blog post on Frettie.com, Frettie.com. Basically, I want to share some hit songwriting advice I've gotten from two #1 pro hit songwriters, Jimmy Yeary and Chris Lindsey. And I want to share some of that with you from the blog post today. Hello, and got some folks joining us. Thank you. And I want to share some advice from Chris and Jimmy with you guys, and it's from a blog post that you can find in the description here of the live video. And so you can just click on over there if you want to read it. But I want to just bring out a couple of the points I thought were extra crispy and just comment on them a little bit. And then also, if you have comments based on what you see in the blog post, what I say here, or just other questions you want to ask me, hit me up in the comments. That way I will address a couple of those as we have time till my daughter wakes up. She's down there, not beside my desk. She's actually below me. I'm on the second floor. So her bedroom's right under mine. So if I hear her crying, we might get up and go check a diaper or something. But anyway, all right, here's the deal. So, hey, Darren, and I think I see Sam again, Gerald, Alan. All right. Tom, good. Glad you can hear me. All right, folks. Yeah, we're rocking. All right. So what we did was I also run a membership site called Frettie.com, Frettie.com. It's for songwriters. And every quarter, and sometimes lately more often, I'll bring in a hit songwriter, music publisher, somebody in the business. I'll interview them, and we'll take questions from the Frettie members that are in attendance on the video conference, so it's online. And so I had Jimmy Yeary in for an event, and he's a #1 hit songwriter. He wrote I Drive Your Truck for Brice. And if you know that song, you can go ahead and hit the like because it's awesome. And also he wrote Everything's Gonna Be All Right, which was a comeback hit for David Lee Murphy. Duet with Kenny Chesney was a #1 for him. He's had songs recorded also by Kenny Chesney, by Rascal Flatts, and a bunch of other folks. So we had him in for an event, and he laid down some great nuggets of wisdom. Also had Chris Lindsey on for a Know the Row event. And Chris wrote Amazed by Lonestar. You might have heard of it. He also wrote Every Time I Hear That Song for Blake Shelton, so both big #1s. He's also had cuts by Carrie Underwood, Keith Urban, Tim McGraw. I don't know, just a few people. So he also gave us some advice. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, one thing that came from these events is, and this is from Jimmy Yeary, he says, you don't necessarily need to write with the artist. It certainly helps, but the right song can overcome that. I'm a firm believer that the best song wins. So that does me good because I know it's easy to think. And so this is my commentary on what Jimmy had to say. I'm really glad to hear that because I don't always write with artists. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I don't write with artists more times than I write with them. And it's good to know that the right song can still get cut, even if it's not written with the artist. Yeah, being in the room with the artist gives you an edge for sure. But just knowing that, okay, it doesn't have to be with the artist, that great songs can still get cut. I mean, I Drive Your Truck was not written with Brice, but it went on to win Song of the Year, like at the ACMs and the CMAs, won Song of the Year. It was an outside song. Maybe that's the level of song it has to be to get cut if you don't write with the artist, but it can still happen. And so that's encouraging. Hey, Matthew, and hey, Luke, thanks for joining us. Hey, Todd and Rick. And so, all right, what else? It's another one here. Here's another one from Jimmy. He says he goes through a ritual every day to get his brain revved up. Reading, vigorous exercise, and brain exercises get him ready to write. He's not a guy that can just wake up, hop in the truck, and go write. And I'd be curious to hear if you guys have kind of a daily ritual before you go write, if you're able to write every day. I know not everyone can. But do you have stuff that gets you ready? It was really interesting in that event, the Know the Row event with Jimmy. It was really inspiring how he treats it much like being a professional athlete. I mean, everything from, hey, I watch what I eat because I want my brain to be as healthy as possible, and so I can think as clearly as possible. I try to get enough sleep. I go running, get the exercise, get the body in shape so your mind is part of your body. And so how he watches his sleep, his eating. He's like, being a songwriter is probably going to make me live longer because I'm going to be healthier because he trains basically like an athlete. And then also he talked about some of his exercises he does every day as he's going in to write that just gets his brain it's kind of stretching exercises before you go run. It's your warm-ups, and it gets him going and ready to write. So I thought that stuff was really cool. Hey, my dad's in here. Hey, Dad, love you. All right. So anyway, so I thought that was great advice and really inspiring and challenging from Jimmy. And I've gone on to try to set more of a daily ritual with my songwriting. Before I co-write or on whatever the day is, there's some stuff I try to do every day to just keep the machinery up and running, to get the brain going. Did one this morning, as a matter of fact, and I like the results I'm getting. Makes me feel like, if nothing else, I've done a little bit of writing for the day, and I'm getting that machinery up and going. So I thought that was some great advice from Jimmy. Another one he said is to get going early. Bring ideas in so you can find the idea for the song quickly. So this is talking about a co-write. Get in early, bring an idea so you have more time to actually work on the song. And I think that's important. That's something that's been a little bit of a topic of discussion lately, I think in the Songwriting Pro Facebook group. But hey, should you bring in ideas? Should you just go with the flow and show up and say, hey, what ideas are in the room? For myself here, Rachel, I need coffee too. That's, there we go. Stimulus response, like Pavlov's dog. I say something about coffee, I have to take a sip. But for myself, I think it's really important to bring in ideas. Or if you're not the lyricist, I'm a lyricist, so I want to bring in ideas. And if you're more of a melody person, bring in some groove, bring in some track, bring in whatever it is that is your song seed. I think is really important, because I call it pre-writing. You're doing your homework. I mean, if you look at it like an athlete, do they just only make up plays on the day of the game? No, they've been practicing for weeks, for months. They come in prepared. And I think, especially if you're writing with a pro, if you're not a what I call a positional pro yet. In other words, you haven't had the hits yet, you haven't had the cuts yet, the publishing deal yet, or the accolades to say that, hey, I'm a pro songwriter. But in your mind, you're a pro and you work like one. But if you're writing with someone that does have the track record, does have the stuff on the wall, does have the cuts, I think it's irresponsible, really, and it's pretty disrespectful to come in without some sort of ideas, without a stack of, hey, I got these grooves, I got these licks on the guitar, or I have this lyric, I have this idea, I got this title. I think it's important to bring that in, for one thing, because the pro writer, why are they writing with you, right? They already have their usual, cast of characters they're going to write with, that they could be writing with that day. And they know what they bring, because they're other pros and they have a track record. So what do they want from you? They want what they don't already have, and they want what's in your brain. And so for you to show up without any ideas is not a good look. It's not a good way to start off. So, but what Jimmy is kind of talking about this is coming in with some song starts. That way you can get on that idea as quickly as possible, find the one you love, and then you're just spending your day writing instead of spending half your day just trying to find an idea because you're coming up with it on the fly. Right. And so, especially for pros that are writing a bunch, every day matters, every minute matters, because it's so competitive and you want to get the best songs possible. And so therefore you want to spend as much time on the song as you can. So why spend the first 3 hours just trying to find the idea? Come in with some ideas, and something may pop up in the room too. And that's cool. And that's always, I consider that almost a bonus, because then I still have all the ideas I brought in the room that day. And now we're writing a different one that I'm even more excited about, because that's why I'm writing it that day. But then I still have all the other ideas, all that homework I did, to bring into my next co-write. So either way, it's a win. All right. So let's go to a couple from Chris Lindsey. Again, wrote Amazed by Lonestar. Every time I hear that song, Blake Shelton, Tim McGraw cuts, Carrie Underwood cuts. He also produced that Mark Wills song, 19-something, which was a hit. And he co-wrote, I believe, This One's for the Girls for Martina McBride, if you know that one. So Chris said you need to be writing edgy material, because it could be 6 to 8 years before that song hits the radio. Every time I hear that song, so number one for Blake Shelton was 6 years old when it hit number one. 6 years. That's a long time. So one thing that you need to be wary of is writing just what's on the radio, exactly what's going on right now. There's a saying, if you chase radio, that's all you're going to do is chase it. You're not going to catch it. Because, say, every time I hear that song was written 6 years ago. Things take a while. Monday Morning Church for me, we wrote it at the tail end of 2001. It came out about 3 years later in 2004. late 2004. So it was 3 years since that song had been written before it came out. Other songs take longer, some are faster, but you need to not just aim exactly what's trendy, what's going on just right now, especially if you're not in the business working with artists, working with producers. So it's going to take longer for your songs to kind of work their way through. You need to be thinking ahead of the radio and not worry so much about that. You need to be aware of what's there, but you also need to be writing ahead of it, because it may, again, like every time I hear that song, it takes 6 years for that sucker to get cut and get on the radio. So I thought that was interesting and encouraging. Like, if you have a song that you believe in like that, don't stop pitching it. Don't give up on it. You're like, oh, I pitched it for 2 years. Everyone's heard it. Well, 6 years for that song. I know for me, I pitched a song called Crickets to Joe Nichols' label when he was on Universal South. And I played it for the one of the head honchos there at the label, and he passed on it. And that was kind of the only access I had to Joe's camp at the time. And so since he passed on it, I might have played it for him again, got another pass. But then a few years later, I saw that Joe had changed labels, and then he was on Red Bow Records, which was the division of Broken Bow. So he had new label people. And then I pitched it to this new label head, and he loved it, and Joe cut it. So even the same song, same artist, don't give up on it if it's something you believe in. All right, here's another one from Chris. Then we'll get to your questions. So if you have any questions, hit me up in the comments, and we'll see what we can get to as time allows. All right, so another one from Chris Lindsey. Songwriters tend to be precious with their songs. They're babies. But if a producer passes on a song, it's not personal. Your song just isn't what they need at that time for that project. So I think that's really true, and hopefully it's encouraging for you, is that it's not personal, because a lot of the time they may not know you. So it can't be personal. And it's just about the song and what they need right now. Like with the Joe Nichols thing, maybe it wouldn't have worked for his previous record when he was under Universal South. It wasn't what they were looking for. It wasn't what they were going for, but it worked for the album that ended up being called Crickets after our song. Years later, on a different crew, different place in Joe's career, and he cut it. So you don't want to give up on those. But also, man, stuff happens. It may just be, I had a song that was on hold for Brad Paisley, and they put the song on hold like 2 weeks before he's supposed to finish the record. And, and I ran into him, and he was complimentary of the song. And so I really had my hopes up, because I love this song, and, Paisley's a great artist. Ended up not making the record. Well, when the record came out, they didn't even go to that place on the record. It's not like my song got beat out by another song that was similar, but he wrote it, or similar but better. They just did not go to that emotional place, and that's in that album. So it didn't find a home on that record. Was it a bad song? No. I mean, he had really good things to say about it. Was it anything personal? No, he didn't know me. I had another case where I wrote a song called A Woman Scorned, and I wrote with Hillary Scott, who went on to form Lady Antebellum with Charles and Dave. And so they'd been playing that song from the very beginning. She'd been playing that song before there was a Lady Antebellum. And so they formed Lady Antebellum. They played it at all their shows. Great. And I saw them play out. I'm like, these guys are awesome. So I'm super excited that they're hopefully going to cut my song. And then they do. And for their first record on Capitol, Lady Antebellum cuts A Woman Scorned. I'm stoked, because they've loved this song from day one. I'm feeling good that's going to make the record. You know what? It didn't make the record. Why? I'm listening to the record. I was very confused by it. I was not real happy, right? I was very disappointed, because I'm a fan, and my job is to get on records. But when I listened to the Lady Antebellum record, A Woman Scorned, which was written before they were even a band, so it wasn't written for them, but it was much more aggressive than anything they did on that record. It was much more rock and much more aggressive. It just had a different vibe to it. So they loved it enough that they played it in a bunch of shows, because it was great energies, great live, and they loved it enough to cut it. But when it came down to what their lane is, what they do as artists, it just didn't quite fit that project. You can't take that personally, because it's not about you. It's not even about whether or not the song's good or not. It's just what they need for that project at that time. It just didn't fit. And it would be foolish for me to say, oh, I'm a crappy writer, or oh, that song sucks, or whatever. It's just not what they needed for that project at that time. You just have to look at it with a little bit of perspective. All right, so And we'll get to questions here in a second, so definitely hit me up in the comments. But I was going to let you know, if you want to read some more advice from Chris and from Jimmy, in the live description here, I just put the link over to the blog post, so you can click on that, read some other bits of advice. If you want to actually watch the full interviews, they're an hour each. If you're a Freddie subscriber, Frettie subscriber, you can go over to Freddie.com, and it's in the members area. You just log in, you can watch those. Again, we do these quarterly. People show up live, so I'd ask them the questions, and we take questions from the Freddie members that are there. We have another one coming up on February 5th with hit publisher Matt Lindsey, and Matt's great. If you have the Garth Brooks anthology volume 1, which I do, and Matt's mentioned like on page 1 or 2 of this thing. He's legit. He's had cuts by Garth, George Strait, the Dixie Chicks, Willie frickin' Nelson, a bunch of people. So he runs Matt Lindsey Music, and so he's at it, and he's plugging songs. And so he's going to be our guest on February 5th. He's going to be taking questions from me and then questions from our audience online. So you can join us from anywhere in the world. Also put a link for that in the description. You can find out some more about that if you want to log on and hang out with Matt for an hour. It's literally face-to-face because it's video conference, and you can ask him your questions, and then you can watch a replay if you're a Freddie subscriber and you missed the live event. So it's good stuff. All right. And again, that link is in the description. Let's see some questions here. Nadia, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, says she meditates for 15 minutes before you start writing to draw your internal light out. Namaste. Namaste. So cool. Yeah. Getting your mind right, I think is an important thing. And for me, you know, one thing I've been doing actually is I've been reading this Garth Brooks anthology volume 1. I just take one song a day, and then I pull up, you know, the corresponding song and listen to it and just kind of soak in some really good stuff. And then I do some other exercises in the morning just to get inspired. You got to do it, you know, get you right. Let's see. Kristen says, get an idea in your mind, meditate on it day and night, keep a journal. Yes, I do a lot of brainstorming on paper or on laptop. Shannon, hey Shannon, coffee and kids at school, so I have some peace and quiet to focus. Get the kids to school. Amen to that. All right. Kristen says, multiple ideas. Whoop, kicking my computer here. So many ideas come from the subconscious, so keep track of where they pop up and don't wait until you're under pressure. So yeah, keep track of those ideas, man. I have a hook book, which I'll show you. So this is my paper hook book, which you know, often travels with me, or if I'm at the house, I'll do the stuff on the phone, the notes app, or email myself an idea or text myself an idea. I try to keep up with that stuff so I don't lose them. Let's see. Tom asks, can you talk a bit about Facebook songwriter groups? Seems that not too many know about them, but they're great places to network, collab, Songwriter Pro. Yes. So that's right. This is on my personal page, but I also have a couple Facebook groups. One is the Songwriting Pro Facebook group. I'll try to shoot the link over here in a minute. But yeah, it is a great place. I'm not a fan of a lot of songwriting Facebook groups because it's a lot of people yelling into a corner. Hey, check it out, check it out. You know, they post their songs that nobody's going to listen to because it's full of songwriters that, you know, aren't really looking to make, or artists that aren't really looking to become a fan of other songwriters and artists, right? It's a lot of people posting their own stuff, not much engagement. So it took me a long time before I started Songwriting Pro Facebook group, just because I wasn't a fan of the others. And so what we do it over there, and you can just search for it, Songwriting Pro Facebook group. It's a closed group, so we'll let anyone in, but we expect you to act a certain way. And that certain way is there are only 2 times a week that we post songs. That's on U Day Tuesday and Feedback Friday. So we do want to hear your stuff. We do want you to share it. But we kind of keep it contained where it doesn't take over the feed and blow everything else out of the water. So I'll post every Tuesday. I post a U Day Tuesday, and as a comment, you leave a song in there, and so people know where to find it. And there's a lot of interaction goes on there. Feedback Friday, same thing, getting feedback on your songs. But it's a really good place to meet other people. I think especially when people share in a contained kind of way where they know, like, oh, I go to the U Day Tuesday post, people come in on Tuesday and they're commenting on each other's songs. There have been co-writes, collaborations come out of that, and people just getting good feedback and getting encouraged and getting challenged to get better. I think is really good. And I know for myself, I post a lot of hopefully helpful information in there on a daily basis, stuff to inspire you, stuff to inform you, and other people share that stuff too. People are asking questions, and the group's good about, chiming in. And also have the Climb community, which is another Facebook group podcast called The Climb. It stands for Creating Leverage in the Music Business. You can find it on iTunes, Stitcher, pretty much anywhere you get good podcast. And I host it with my buddy Johnny Dwinell from Daredevil Production. And so we have any climbers out there, say howdy. And that's another closed community, but you can request to join. We'll let you in. But if you misbehave, we will roadhouse you, because we want to be a positive, helpful environment. So we just share a lot of helpful stuff there. But yeah, check them out if you aren't a member of some of those groups. Hey, Ronnie, good to see you. Everyday Matters is a great song title. Well, Ronnie, you should go write that. Just invite me to the #1 party. And let's see here. Let's see if we've got some other questions or anything. Let's see. Sam. Hey, Sam, buddy. Good to see you, man. How do you write a hit that goes multi-platinum and you can retire off it? Sam, you've written more hits than I have, so you tell me, buddy. Good to see you. We need to talk soon. So I won't blow you up on here. I won't out you, but Sam, great writer, good dude. All right, Shannon, thank you for spending so much time pouring into aspiring songwriters. I'm blushing. Thank you. All right, a lot of names on here. Thanks, y'all, for showing up. Let me take a look at this. Christopher Jones, we talked a little bit about song starts, what the junior writers should bring to co-writers, rhyme sheets, GarageBand tracks. So I may have already covered some of that when I was talking about it, but yeah, it could be whatever it is. It could be a title, an idea, bring in more than one if you can, right? Because they made us go, oh, I wrote that yesterday. And then what do? Right? But yeah, it could be tracks, melody, just a guitar groove. It can be, I've brought in basically complete lyrics before. I don't do that too much these days, but I'll bring in an idea and a basic vision for what it could do, that kind of stuff. So whatever it is that is your strength, you want to lead with that. So if you're a melody person, don't feel like you have to come in with part of a lyric. If you're a melody person, bring in the most kicking melodic piece you have, right? So aim toward your strength. Hey, Anthony Quails, good to see you, bud. All right, let's see. Luke says, get right up and go to write. You have to stay away from the phone, Facebook schedule. Fuzzy allows creativity to start, and I flesh stuff out as I sharpen up. So yeah, that's the thing. You got to be careful about what you fill your brain with in the beginning of the day. What keeps you from writing, especially if you have a day job or you're watching kids or whatever it is that keep, your schedule you also have to fit in there. Some people, when they just wake up, there's that kind of half asleep, half awake. You're kind of tapped into your subconscious a little bit more. And I know some people get a lot of creativity and a lot of ideas that way. I've heard stories about, I don't know if it's Keith Richards or somebody, but some famous rock and roller I heard about would basically just kind of play guitar, fall asleep, or they'd hold a key in their hand. They put a metal dish beside the bed, and so when they fall asleep, they drop the key and it would clang on the dish and wake them up. And while they're in that still foggy, groggy kind of thing, they kind of pick up the guitar and start playing around while they're still kind of half in, half out. So I think that stuff's interesting. Sam walks his dog and hums hooks. Yeah, it's good to get out and walk and get out. I like to drive. Darren keeps a list of inspirational things that kill the writer's block. Oh, things that help you kill the writer's block. Yeah. Let's see, Brett. Have there ever been writers that worked like professional writers but had yet to have the credentials that you have co-written with outside of coaching? I'm not sure if I understand the question. I mean, there are a lot of people that work like pros that just don't have the credits yet. I call those internal professionals. They have the mindset of a pro. They take it seriously like a pro. They work hard at it. They're sharpening their skills. That to me, that's an internal pro. An external pro is when you start getting some of that stuff. When you get the accolades that come with it, you start getting cuts. You start getting, your songs start climbing that ladder. You get some stuff to hang on the wall. You start getting paid from it. To me, that's an external pro. And so I think becoming a pro doesn't depend on, it's not your first cut that makes you a pro, the way I look at it. It's your mindset. It's your work ethic. It's constantly growing your skills. That's what makes you a pro internally. And you have to be an internal pro before you can become an external pro. So, so yeah, they're writers that work like pros, but just haven't gotten their credentials yet. Because usually you have to do that before you can get their credentials. Sam says, if you're stuck for a title, try to do a search on Amazon. Start with romance books. Yeah, that's something I just recommended. I'm doing a building a hit workshop with some writers, and that's one thing about finding ideas is like go to Amazon. It's a huge search engine, for books and everything. Just type in a word like love in books and come up with all these book titles, and you're like, oh my gosh, this like hooks for days, right? Song titles for days, or other words, forgiveness, whatever your truck, if you're a country writer, whatever it is, you might come up with just from the search engine all these titles that you can write as songs. 3 a.m. Todd says is his best time. Man, I used to be mostly writing after midnight because I think my mind settled down enough. My internal critic went away. It was quiet. I don't write that much after midnight these days because I got to get up with the kiddies. Ronnie loves Freddie. Thank you, bud. Great investment. But yeah, y'all just read Ronnie's. All right. Yeah, it's $50 a year or $5 a month right now. So it's you definitely get your money's worth if you show up. Thank you, Jennifer. I'll keep sending the emails since you like them. Hey, Darren, good. And glad you're a climber. All right, got a few climbers in here. Let me look for some other questions here. Oh, how does an internal pro go about writing with an external pro? All right. Oh, love the hearts. All right. How does an internal pro go about writing with an external pro? I think there are a few ways to get on a pro's radar. One is, in groups like the Songwriting Pro Facebook group, like Freddie, like some of that stuff. I was hosting an event called Play for a Publisher. And I have one coming up. We just secured the next publisher, but we were having one with a hit publisher in town. And so writers send in songs, and there's a guy that his stuff just killed me. And he kept getting through to the publisher. And I saw it was great, a guy named David, and he and I started writing together. So you can meet people in groups like that out at workshops, if like song feedback nights, that kind of stuff, or just climbing that ladder of like, hey, I'm writing with other people that aren't signed, that don't have hits yet, that aren't external pros, but each one of them has a network. And if your songs are good enough, you start climbing. How I got some of my first pro co-writes before I was a pro, I'd moved to Nashville and just started meeting some publishers through workshops, through personal connections, just, doing the thing, beating the streets. And I remember, daggone Carla Wallace at Big Yellow Dog. So Big Yellow Dog's a great independent publisher, and she's a sweetheart to me. And she let me start coming by the office because she liked one of my songs. It was a song that had not been cut yet, a song called Monday Morning Church. She was a fan of the song, and she took time to meet with me, and I was green as a gourd. And she met with me and gave me advice. She wanted to hear song ideas and just let me bounce stuff off of her. She let me write over at the office some. And then she picked up the phone and called some pros for me. I think she is the one that helped get me in the room with Byron Hill. And, I've had some success with Byron. He's a good friend and he's a Hall of Fame songwriter. So thank you, Carla. And so that kind of thing, you start making relationships. It's not just a relationship business, it's a recommendation business. So, as your songs get better and better, your network gets stronger, everyone's, hey, Steve Leslie. And as your songs get better, it gets easier to make relationships because you can solve other people's problems. At the end of the day, we're in the service business, right? We're here to solve problems for people. So your co-writers, you get better co-writers, the more problems you're able to solve for your co-writers. I need a killer lyric. I need a killer hook. I need a killer melody. The more you can solve that for someone else, or it's like, I need someone that has a record deal. If you're that person, you solve a lot of problems for a lot of people. And so you think about the value you bring, and the more value you bring to your co-writers, the more word's going to spread, and the more they're going to play your songs instead of someone else's because your songs are better. And then publishers, you want to help solve their problems by getting them songs that can get cut and help them keep their jobs and keep the lights on. And so it's really a value giving business. We're in the service business. So hopefully that helps. Let's see here. Man, we're already getting on 30 minutes. That flies by. When's the next play for publisher? I think it's going to go on sale next month, so that'll be February. I think just need to confirm the date with our guest, and then I'll be sharing who it is. But that'll be coming up next month. And basically what that is, you send in a song, we whittle it down to the top 10 that I think will impress the publisher, and then we bring the publisher on a video conference with the 10, songwriters of the top songs, and the publisher listens and gives feedback, and it's face-to-face. Sam Spears, who's on here, Sam, he's been on a couple. I mean, he lives in Scotland, and he's just stays up late or gets up early. I'm not sure which. And then I'm pulling my cord here. And, he's got to meet with some publishers in Nashville from Scotland because he writes really good songs. And so we have another one of those coming up. Let's see. All right. I think we're catching up. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, I think the play for pub events are helpful, so that's why I do them. All right, so we'll close up because we're at 30 minutes. But just want to remind you, up in the description, I have a couple links. If you want to read some more advice from Jimmy Yeary and Chris Lindsey, you can do that at the link to the blog. If you want to watch a full replay, it's free for Freddie subscribers in the members area. So if you're a Freddie member, you can go there. If you want to check it out, it's like $5 a month or $50 a year. And we have another one coming up February 5th with Matt Lindsay, Hit Publisher. And so it'd be your chance to hop on with a legit publisher. And we're not playing songs, but we're doing Q&A. You can ask him your questions, make a connection. And and the link for that is also in the description. So I appreciate you guys hanging out. Thank you. And I'll try to do another one of these probably next Monday around the same time. So just keep an eye out. But I appreciate it. And y'all keep on writing, all right? You can be an internal pro before you're an external pro. So you want to get your mindset right, your work ethic right, and that's what's going to open those doors to having the external credibility and the external rewards. And even if that doesn't come, because we can't promise any of that, you're going to write better songs, and you're going to enjoy that, and you're going to climb that ladder, and you're going to enjoy that journey even more the better you write. So I just want to encourage you to do that. So, all right. Y'all have a great day. Appreciate you. God bless, and we'll see you on the next one. Oh, also, feel free, if you are in a Facebook group or on your personal page, feel free to share this. If you think this is going to be helpful for somebody else, share this link around. Love to help more people. Love to have more people knowing what we're doing here, and we can help them out. So, all right. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you. God bless.